Hi everyone, welcome back to Nick's Diecast. In today's video, I'll be showing you and reviewing this 118 scale 1955 Mercedes-Benz 190SL made by Maisto. I got this model from Amazon warehouse deals for just over $20 in total. I thought that was a pretty good price, and if you saw my unboxing, you did see that it did come in a slightly damaged box, but that's because it was from Amazon warehouse deals as opposed to the regular like Amazon site. But Maisto is still currently making this particular model today. You can only find it in this bright red with the beige interior, but I think this is a really awesome looking color on this particular car. And in the past, Maisto also made it in white with a red interior, as well as kind of a rare mint green version that had kind of these white wheels and I think a dark green interior or something like that. And there's also an even, I think, more rare black version as well with the red interior. Maisto, or Maisto, depending on how you want to say it. They initially released this model in the 1990s, and they produced it until around the early 2000s. Then it was discontinued for quite some time. And then back in 2017, Maisto brought back this model along with two other Mercedes-Benz models to their line. The 280 SE convertible and the 300S convertible were among the two of them. And of course, this model was the third model that Maisto brought back once again. But I think as a whole, this model is pretty well done. And you can find this online for anywhere between $10 for an out-of-the-box beat-up one on eBay, for upwards of $45 or $50 for kind of the more rare colors. That green and that black version I mentioned are pretty rare compared to the white and the red versions. As far as the colors go for this model, I would say from most common to most rare, it would be the white, the bright red that you see here, the mint green version, and the black version. Oh, and Maisto also made kind of a beat-up version of this in their line called Old Friends, where they had models from their regular special edition line, but they added some, I guess, detail touches like fake rust and fake dents and things like that. So it looked like it was like a barn find sort of deal. So that version came in this same red, but it had all the Old Friends, I guess, details on it. So that one's pretty hard to find too. So I would probably slot that version between the black version and the green version in terms of overall rarity. But I would definitely recommend getting this bright red version if you can find it for a good price. It looks really cool, I think, on the car. And I think as a whole, Maisto did do a good job with the details on here. So we'll go ahead and take a kind of closer look at the details of the model. We'll start up here with the front. I think Maisto did an excellent job with the overall shape and size of this model here. This was a smaller car in real life. Mercedes-Benz first released the 190 SL series in 1955 to kind of be a cheaper version of the 300 SL Gullwing, which even back then wasn't necessarily an attainable sports car for a lot of people. So Mercedes kind of launched the 190 SL line to kind of be a cheaper version of that particular car. And the 190 SL was made until 1963, when after that it was succeeded by the 280 SL, or the 230 SL, I believe it was called. But back to the model. Maisto did an excellent job, I think, with capturing the overall look and shape of the car. In the front here, you will see a very well detailed grille, as well as the famous Mercedes-Benz three-pointed star. That center grille is actually a perforated piece, which is cool to say. Back when Maisto was releasing models in the 1990s, a lot of their grills were like true grills, like they had the perforated plastic on them and everything. And this one certainly has that, which looks very cool. And then, of course, you have the nice detailed chrome, which surrounds the grille, as well as the three-pointed star badge. And then for the headlights, I think Maisto also did an excellent job with those. You have kind of the classic round lights, and they have a nice texture to the lenses as well. There is a peg in the center of each one, but if this were the real vehicle, the light bulbs would actually be where those pegs are. So I don't think that's a big deal that you can see those pegs. And you do get those kind of lower separately cast plastic pieces for the indicator lights down here, which are done in kind of an amber colored plastic. And then you have the nicely done front bumper on here as well, which I think Maisto did a good job with. Up on the hood, you also have the Mercedes-Benz three-pointed star badge on there as well. I believe this is a sticker. Yes, that is a sticker, but this was initially released in the 1990s, so Maisto was doing stickers a lot of times for their badges back then, so just be careful when you're cleaning up the model. You don't want to like rub off the sticker or have it peel off and whatnot, but that's not a big deal, I don't think. As far as the paint quality goes on the model, I think Maisto did an excellent job. The one difference you're going to see between the older versions of this casting and the newer versions of this casting are that you're going to see a major increase in terms of paint quality on the newer castings. The older castings, while they did come in more colors, the paint wasn't always evenly applied to the models. You would see like orange peel and rough regions here and there. But for newer versions of the casting, you have a very nicely, evenly applied paint job that's very glossy and nice and smooth throughout. I think that makes this red really stand out on here because you just have that nice, shiny, and glossy look to it. So I think Maisto did an excellent job in that sense. Taking a look at the side of the model in terms of details, I think Maisto did an excellent job with these wheels on here. A thing that Mercedes was kind of known for many of their vehicles made in the 1950s and 60s was that the center portions of their wheels, you could get them optioned to kind of match the body color of the car. And I think that creates a really kind of cool look. It's a nice kind of like accent, I suppose we can say. And on here, the wheels certainly look good. Maisto, I think, did a good job with the overall look and shape of these wheels. They are accurate to the real 190SL that you would see. And of course, with the model, you do get full steering. It's actually good steering too, I might add, and full suspension as well, which is a nice touch. And then also on the side, you do have some nice chrome detailing along the bottom portion of the car, as well as these kind of painted on silver details here. I believe maybe on the real 190SL, these would be separately cast or separately done chrome pieces, but on here, Maisto just kind of painted them on as silver. And this one part here did kind of bleed a slight bit into the red paint, but you can't really see that from like a far distance. And these things you could always, I guess, correct with a silver Sharpie if you just kind of line up the Sharpie with where the silver paint should be and then just kind of lightly draw across it like that. But I'm just going to leave mine how it looks now. It doesn't look that bad, especially from a far distance too. But that's probably just a minor factory defect for my particular model here. Taking a look at the back, Maisto also did a great job back here as well. You have the nice separately cast taillights done in chrome and with the clear lenses as well. You have kind of that red portion and that amber portion on there as well. And then you have kind of this separately cast chrome, looks like a cap back here. That might be a fuel filler cap or something. I'm not totally sure on that. But then you also have the separately cast chrome license plate frame too. And they also do a good job with this rear bumper, I would say too. It's actually very sturdy on the car as well. Another kind of difference you'll see for the newer versions of this casting, that you're going to have, I think, a lot more sturdy features on it. And then, of course, you have the 190SL badge on the trunk, as well as the three-pointed star badge on the trunk as well. They didn't, of course, do these as separately cast plastic pieces, but I think they are kind of the right size and proportion if this were the real car. But, of course, on the real car, they would be separately done kind of chrome badges. But I think they look good on this model here. And something else to note is that Maisto also did a good job with this convertible top cover back here. It looks like it's a real cover. Of course, it is just made out of plastic, but they really nail like the wrinkled look of it. And honestly, from a far distance, it seems like it really is like a real leather or fabric piece back there. I always thought that was kind of a cool touch on Maisto's older castings. They really put a lot of detail into like the folded back convertible tops for their convertible models. And they still do too, but I think back then they really were paying attention to kind of minor details like that. So that's just very cool to see. And you also have adjustable sun visors on the model too, which was a common feature that Maisto included on their models in the 1990s. And they kept it on for this casting, which is very cool to see. In terms of opening features on the model, you of course do have the opening trunk back here. You have to kind of tilt up the car like that to get it open sometimes. There we go. And the hood opens too while you do that. So I guess we'll leave both up like that. But in the trunk back here, not really a whole lot to see in terms of details. There is kind of a nice texture going on back here. It's almost like a louvered or like a corrugated surface in here. I assume it would have been rubber on the real trunk. I'm not really too sure on that, but at least it does have a nice texture going on. And then you actually do get a full spare wheel and tire back here as well. And I think this would be the true look of the real 190 SL's spare tire and wheels. I think Maisto did a good job in that sense too. And then underneath the trunk lid, it is fully painted, as well as the hood too, I might add. I think for the older versions of this casting, Maisto just kind of painted the exterior portions of the opening parts and then just kind of left the underside as just underspray. And that really didn't look good, especially if you put the model on the shelf with the hood up like that. But on newer versions, Maisto does fully paint the undersides of the hood and the trunk. So that's nice to see. And speaking of the hood, you also do have the opening hood, as you see right here. The engine detail, I would say, is actually pretty well done for a budget 118 model car. The engine is made up of several different separately cast plastic components, as you see right here. You even have some different details for like the wires and whatnot, kind of underneath that main block there. You have some red, some chrome, and some silver going on in there too. Most of this rear portion is done in black, but all the components that you would see, I think, are accurately molded in place. I think a slight bit more detail definitely would have been welcome as far as the engine goes on the model, but I think what Maisto did in here, they did a good job with. And the model does look good with the hood up like that on the shelf. I always like these older Mercedes-Benz models that have the reversed opening hood. I don't know what the right term is for that, but it looks super cool. The 300 SL also had that kind of a feature on there. And again, Mercedes-Benz made the 190 in order to kind of be a budget-friendly version of the 300 from the SL series. So Maisto, I think, did a good job overall with the engine in that sense. And then, of course, you also have opening doors. On my model, the passenger side door opens a lot, I think, tighter than the driver's side door, which opens a lot looser. That's because these hinges are on dog legs. If Maisto were to kind of re-release this model today as a new model, you would definitely see spring-loaded hinges as opposed to dog legs. But on here, you do get the dog leg hinges, and although you can open the doors at a pretty wide angle, they might get loose over time, so I would try not to open them too much in that sense. I think if they do get loose, you can easily kind of unscrew the base of the model and then just find the screws holding the doors in place and then screw those in tighter. But I haven't actually tried that out, so I'm not totally sure on that. But I think your best bet would be to just not open the doors up too often. But that's not a big deal because this is a convertible or a roadster, so you can pretty much see all the details of the interior, even if you don't open the doors. And speaking of the interior detail, Maisto, I think, did a great job with the interior detail on here. On the dashboard, you will see that it is done in white, which I think creates a nice accent with the beige interior and the red paint. You have the 190 SL inscription kind of in the center there, and then you have all the different knobs and kind of dials kind of separately cast in chrome pieces on here too. You also have the chrome shifter. Of course, the shift boot should be done in like black or something, or maybe even beige, but Maisto just kind of made that whole shifter as one chrome piece, but at least it is the right shape and proportion to the rest of the interior. I will give them that. The steering wheel is very well detailed too. It's actually made up of two different pieces. You have kind of that chrome piece on there, and then you have the main kind of white portion. And you have a very small Mercedes-Benz badge in the center that's done in red, so that really does create kind of a nice accent because it does match the exterior color of the model, which looks very well done. And then you have kind of that gauge cluster back there too. These two gauges are actually separate. Maisto put in two separate stickers for those instead of putting in one just kind of giant tacky looking sticker. So I think they did a good job in that sense. Door panel detailing, I would say, is very well done as well. Not too much to really see in general, but at least the texture looks great. And then you have the window crank and the door handle on there too. That's really all you would see on the real car too. But I think Maisto did a great job with those. And the great detail does continue onto the seats, which do have a nice overall shape, look, and texture to them. They don't have adjustable seat backs on them, but I don't think that's a big deal because if anything, that makes them just more sturdy, which is nice to see. Nice texture on there as well, kind of like leather like you would see on the real vehicle. And then you have some nice texturing back here as well. I did already mention something about the boot cover having a nice texture. This rear kind of shelf portion kind of has a rough texture, almost like it would be carpeting, because I believe this would be carpeted just like the rest of the floor of the model would be if this were the real car. So Maisto, I think, did a great job with all those different details in there. And you do have the 3 chrome pedals back there as well. They're actually very hard to see. You have to kind of tilt the model up like that in order to see them. because from a regular angle, they're kind of hidden underneath the dashboard. But Maisto, I think, did a good job with those as well. They're a bit on the small side, I think, but I think aside from that, at least they do them as separately cast plastic pieces, and they do look, I think, quite well done. As far as the undercarriage detail goes, another thing I think Maisto did a good job with on the model, because you can actually see a lot of the engine detail down there. And while the exhaust system is done in chrome, it's kind of done in like a more rough texture of chrome. Sort of like what you would see as a texture on the real exhaust system, which of course wouldn't be plastic, it would be made out of metal. But instead of kind of a shiny chrome, Maisto did this as more of like a dull chrome. And I think it would have been better if they'd done it in like silver maybe, or like gray as opposed to chrome, but at least they did do kind of a different type of chrome. Like typically you see them kind of done as like shiny chrome components for the exhaust systems, but on here they kind of do a more roughly textured and dull chrome. So I think they did a decent job in that sense. And then of course, once again, you do have the engine detail kind of poking out down there. And you can even see the steering system down there as well. I think as a whole, the 190SL is a really good looking car. And I think this model that Maisto made of it is very well done. I think if you're a fan of Mercedes-Benz models or classic cars from the 1950s in general, this model would definitely be a good addition to your collection of 118 scale cars. And in general, this is pretty easy to find if you want to go for either the red version that I have here or the white version. And I think as long as you're paying under $45 for it, you're getting a great deal. And again, these are plentiful on sites such as eBay and whatnot. If you want to go for one of the more rare colors like the mint green version or the black version, expect to pay a little bit more, but maybe not too much more, because then you're kind of getting into like Norev territory. And yes, Norev has made a 118 version of this same car. Of course, that's going to be at least $60 and comes in different colors. But as far as budget models go, this really is a good one, I think, if you're just looking for a classic Mercedes-Benz model to add to your collection of 118 scale cars. So feel free to comment down below with your thoughts on the model here. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.